Jai Swaminarayan. Today we are starting a new section of the Vachanamrut. This passage is titled Loyā 1. Anger, developing complete Satsang. Satsang refers to a true association. On Kartik Vadhi the 10th, Samvat 1877, or the 30th of November 1820, Swami Sri Sahajanandji Maharaj was sitting on a large decorated cot in the residential hall of the Paramahansas in Surya Akshar Darbar in Loyā. He was wearing a white cotton-padded sarval and a white dagli made of chint. He had also tied a white feto around his head. At that time, an assembly of munis as well as devotees from various places had gathered before him. Thereupon, Sriji Maharaj asked the munis, "What does the word Shankar mean?" Shankar is one of the most famously used words for Shiva, the destroyer in the Trimurti of Hinduism, of the triple form of God, which includes among the destroyer Brahma, the creator, and Vishnu, the preserver. Hearing this answer, they haven't answered yet, I skipped a line. The munis replied, first, that which gives bliss is called Shankar. Hearing this answer, Sriji Maharaj said, last night, an hour or two before sunrise, Shivaji granted me his darshan, his sight, in a dream. He was seated on the big, powerful Nandishwar. His body was very robust, and he had thickly matted hair. He appeared to be approximately 40 years of age. Along with Shivaji was Parvati, who was wearing white clothes. Shivaji, like a great sadhu, a great monk, appeared tranquil. Even though he showed great affection towards me, I did not feel affection for him. This is a Vaishnavite tradition. Why? Because I believe that Shiva is a deva, a deity full of tamogun, the quality of darkness, whereas I worship Vishnu in the form of Sri Krishna Narayan, who is tranquility personified, full of sattva gun. Therefore, I do not have much affection for the devas like Brahma, the creator, who is full of rajogun, Shiva, as we said, full of tamogun, and Indra, which is the Lord of the world, who have rajogun and tamogun, etc. Moreover, I have much animosity towards anger. Sometimes Shiva is depicted as angry. I do not like angry people or angry devas. Nonetheless, why do I respect Shivaji? I do so because he is a renunciant, a yogi, and a great devotee of God. In fact, I believe that Shivaji's Ishtadeva, personal form of the divine, is very similar to Sriji Maharaj's, as Shiva is famously a devotee of various forms of Vishnu, like Rama or Krishna. What is anger like? Well, it is like a rabid dog. If the saliva of a rabid dog touches a person or a cow, then they, like the incessantly barking rabid dog, suffer and die. Still to this day, I know that rabies is one of the most deadly diseases. There have been almost no accounts of people surviving, but it is possible. Similarly, one infected by the saliva, so to speak, in the form of anger, like the rabid dog, suffers and falls from the path of a sadhu, of a spiritual seeker. Furthermore, just like a butcher, an Arab, and I'm not sure the context in which this word means. Don't know if that's a specific title or what it refers to, but I trust that it doesn't simply refer to a group of people like Arabic speakers or those of Arabic culture ancestry, but related to the other examples like a cruel soldier, a tiger, a leopard, a black snake. We can imagine that a certain kind of being that frightens everyone and kills some. Similarly, anger frightens all and takes the life of some others. If such anger arises in a sadhu, and before I continue with that line, I will just further clarify that I trust that the point is not to reject any person, but it's the anger itself that's being criticized. There's no room for anger here. If such anger arises in the sadhu, it appears very unsuitable. After all, a sadhu should be calm. But if anger were to arise, that sadhu would appear cruel to others. At that time, that sadhu's appearance would change, since anger itself is ugly. Hence, anger makes the person in whom it arises appear ugly. Then Shuk Muni asked, Maharaj, if a slight trace of anger arises, but is then suppressed, is such anger obstructive or not? Sriji Maharaj replied, if a snake were to appear in this assembly at this moment, then even if it does not bite anyone, everyone would still have to rise and scatter. There would be panic in everyone's heart. Furthermore, if a tiger were to come and roar at the outskirts of a village, then even if it does not harm anyone, all would feel terror within, and no one would come out of their homes. Similarly, even if a trace of anger were to arise, it would still be a source of extreme misery. Then, Junior Nirmananand Swami asked, by what means can lust be totally uprooted? To this, Sriji Maharaj replied, if one has extremely firmly realized oneself to be the Atma, beyond the body, the true self, and one firmly observes the 5 religious vows, including the observance of the vow of 8-fold brahmacharya. This is a difficult word to translate into English. Some people translate brahmacharya as celibacy, but it's much more spiritual than a mere restraint of one's actions. It also has to do with one's thoughts, their words, and their deeds, and realizing themselves to be beyond the need for physical or intimate pleasure. Literally, brahmacharya refers to Brahma, the ultimate, and acharya, the way of. So brahmacharya means the way to the ultimate. So, if one observes this, and one thoroughly understands the glory of God, then lust is uprooted by these means. However, even after the roots of lust have been eradicated, one should not deviate from brahmacharya and other niyams in any way. The yamas refer to ways to conduct yourself, and the niyamas refer to ways not to conduct yourself. However, the method for totally uprooting even the most vicious form of lust is to fully understand the glory of God. Thereafter, Bhajananand Swami asked, Maharaj, What are the characteristics of the three levels of Vairagya? The lowest, the intermediate, and the highest. Vairagya refers to dispassion towards worldly objects or materialistic desires. Sriji Maharaj replied, a person with the lowest level of Vairagya remains pure while strictly observing the niyams related to the renunciation of people whom they'd be attracted to, as described in the Dharma Shastras, scriptures on righteous duty. But if they were to see the body of a person whom they'd be attracted to, then their mind would get attached to that body, and they would not remain stable. Such a person can be considered to be one with the lowest level of Vairagya. If a person with an intermediate level of Vairagya were to see a naked person, then, just as they would not be disturbed by seeing naked animals, similarly no disturbance would arise in their mind. Moreover, their mind would not become attached to that person. Such a person can be considered to be one with an intermediate level of Vairagya. Now, if a person with the highest level of Vairagya were to come across people whom they'd be attracted to, and other worldly objects, even in solitude, they would not be enticed. Such a person can be considered to be one with the highest level of Vairagya. Then, Bhajananand Swami asked again, what are the characteristics of the three levels of God's Jnana, knowing wisdom, the lowest, the intermediate, and the highest? Sriji Maharaj replied, a person with the lowest level of Jnana initially develops the conviction of God upon seeing his powers, but when such powers are not seen in him, or when nothing untoward happens to an evil person who maligns God, then their conviction would not remain. Such a person can be described as one with the lowest level of Jnana. If a person with an intermediate level of Jnana were to see pure and impure, seemingly human, actions of God, they would be deluded by them, and their conviction of God would not remain. Such a person can be described as one with an intermediate level of Jnana. A person with the highest level of Jnana, however, would not be deluded even after seeing any type of pure or impure actions performed by God, and their conviction would not diminish. Moreover, even if the person who initially convinced him of God, or convinced them of God more generally, were to say, he is not God, they would feel, this person must be mad. Such a person can be described as one with the highest level of Jnana. Of these, the one with the lowest level of Jnana attains God realization after countless lives. The one with a moderate level of Jnana attains God realization after 2 or 3 lives, and the one with the highest level of Jnana attains God realization in that same life. Sriji Maharaj replied in this manner. Thereafter, Senior Shivanand Swami asked, despite having complete faith in God, why does one not feel fulfilled within? Covering a lot of wonderful topics today in this passage. Sriji Maharaj replied, a person whose antakaran, their inner faculties of cognition, burns due to the enemies of lust, anger, avarice, affection, egotism, cravings for taste, etc., would not believe themselves to be fulfilled, even if they do have faith in God. Then Nityanand Swami asked, what is the method for overcoming the enemies of lust, anger, etc.? Sriji Maharaj replied, lust and those other enemies are overcome only if one remains alert to the mercilessly... Sorry, let me restart that sentence. Lust and those other enemies are overcome only if one remains alert to mercilessly punish them. Not any person or themselves, but the anger itself, the lust, etc. Just as Dharma Raja remains steady, the king of righteousness, day and night, to beat sinners with a stick, similarly, if the Indriyas, the senses themselves, behave immorally, then the Indriyas should be punished. And if the Andhakaran behaves immorally, the inner senses, then the Andhakaran should be punished. The Indriyas should be punished by imposing upon them Krichra, Chandrayan, and other observances, and the Andhakaran should be punished through a thought process. As a result, those enemies of lust, anger, etc. would be defeated. By the way, I imagine that, though here in the West, when we hear the word punish, we might think of something violent. When it comes to restraining the senses, it just means to take them away from something that you normally find gratification from. Then, by having faith in God, one would feel oneself to be completely fulfilled. Thereafter, Muktanand Swami asked, who can be said to have developed complete satsang, complete association with what is true? Sriji Maharaj replied, first of all, such a person has extremely firmly realized themselves to be the Atma. Also, they believe their Atma to be absolutely detached from the body, the Indriyas, and the Andhakaran. They do not believe the actions of the body, Indriyas, etc. to be their own. Despite this, they do not permit even the slightest lapse in the observance of the 5 religious vows. Moreover, even though they themselves behave as Brahmarup, the form of the divine, they do not abandon their feeling of servitude toward Purushottam Bhagwan. They staunchly worship the divine while maintaining a master-servant relationship with him. Furthermore, he realizes the manifest form of God to be absolutely unaffected, like Akash, like space itself. That Akash is interwoven with and pervades the 4 other bhuts, the elements, the actions of which occur within Akash. However, the actions of those 4 bhuts do not affect Akash. Similarly, despite performing pure and impure actions, the manifest form of Sri Krishna Narayan remains unaffected, just like Akash. Also, such a person realizes the countless powers of this God as follows. This God appears to be human for the liberation of the jivas, the souls, but in fact, he is the creator, sustainer, and destroyer of countless Brahmans, universes. He is the Lord of Golok, Vaikuntha, Shvetdvip, Brahmapur, and other divine abodes. He is also the Lord of all the countless Akshar Rup Muktas, great liberated beings. With such realization of God's glory, he devoutly engages, or they devoutly engage in listening to the talks of God and in the other forms of bhakti, of loving devotion. They also serve God's devotees menially. When a person behaves in this manner, their satsang can be said to be complete. Junior Shivanand Swami then asked, at times, one understands the glory of a devotee of God extremely well, but at other times one does not understand it so well. What is the reason for this? Then Sriji Maharaj replied, "The Sant, the saint, follows the path of dharma, righteousness. When they see a person treading the path of adharma, non-righteousness, they rebuke that person. As a result, the person who identifies themselves with the body will not know how to accept the advice positively, and in return will harbor an aversion towards the Sant. Therefore, a person understands the glory of the Sant as long as they are not rebuked by them. Even when that person is given beneficial advice that may pain them, they harbor an aversion and does not retain that understanding of the Sant's glory. One who harbors an aversion towards the Sant is unable to become pure by any form of atonement. In fact, release from the sins of lust and other vices is possible, but release from the sin of maligning the Sant is not. For example, if a person contracts tuberculosis, which during the time of this writing, no medicine would be able to cure the disease and they would definitely die. In present times, now we have developed treatments that are very effective, but still in rural regions like Gujarat, India, treatment has still not made its way due to various companies withholding it for their own financial gain, and it's a topic that deserves lots of care and attention. Nonetheless, similarly, one who harbors an aversion towards the Sant should be known as having tuberculosis. They will certainly fall from Satsang sometime in the future. Furthermore, even if a person's hands, feet, nose, eyes, fingers, and other body parts are severed, they still cannot be described as dead. However, when the head is severed from the body, they are described as dead. Similarly, one who perceives flaws in a devotee of God has had their head severed, so to speak. If they lapse in following other religious vows, then their limbs can be said to be severed. They will still live. That is, they will survive in satsang. But a person who has perceived flaws in the Sant will certainly, at some time, fall from satsang. They should be known to have their head severed, so to speak. And I believe this is important because whoever is giving discourses on the divine, they become a representative of the divine. And if we feel like their own discourses are tainted in some way, then how will we be able to benefit from that teaching? But that's different from validating the discourses given from anyone. Doesn't mean that everyone who claims to be a sant, a saint, truly is. So discernment, viveka, is absolutely required. Then Bhagwan Swami asked, if one has perceived flaws in a devotee, If one has perceived flaws in a devotee, is there any method to atone for it or not? Sriji Maharaj replied, there is a remedy, but it is extremely difficult. One who has intense shraddha can do it, faith or trust. When flaws are perceived in the sant, one should think, I have committed a grave sin by perceiving flaws in a Brahma Svarupa Bhakta of God. From such thoughts, they should feel intense regret in their heart. As a result of such regret, while eating, they would be unable to distinguish between tasty and tasteless foods, and at night they would be unable to sleep. As long as the aversion towards the sant is not removed from a person's heart, they would experience extreme remorse, just like a fish would suffer without water. On the other hand, when they intensely perceive the virtues in that sant, then if that sant has been hurt in any way, they would please them with absolute humility. If this type of thought remains in a person's heart, then even if they have perceived flaws in the sant, they would still be overcome, and they would not fall from satsang. Apart from that, there is no other remedy. That is the only remedy. All right, thank you for listening. Powerful way to start this Loyā section of the Vachanāmrut. So I hope you enjoyed this. Thank you for listening. Jai Swaminarayan.